What's going on, you guys? I asked the people of Amino the other day to post their unpopular opinions, and I would make a video responding to those opinions, so that's what this is today. Starting with Chad, he says, Velocity Design Comfort is better than Loveless. Wrong. However, I will give you props because Velocity Design Comfort is a great project that often gets overshadowed by a lot of other stuff. It's an extremely creative album, but I don't think it's very fair to compare it to Loveless because they're extremely different. Loveless is more guitar driven. The only thing that these albums really have in common to me is the way the vocals are sung. There's more synthy stuff, more electronic stuff on Velocity Design Comfort. I respect the take though. Moving on. Next, Mo Lester says, Logic is greater than Kendrick. I know this is a joke, but did you guys know Logic is biracial? CJ says, No's Death is Silent is a really well-produced album, which makes sense because No is generally an amazing producer. However, a lot of the rapping on the record from No and other guest verses sound very out of place and kind of corny delivery-wise and from a writing standpoint sometimes, which is also a problem I generally have with most albums from Cunnilingus as well, as great as I find them to be. I actually agree with this, CJ. As big a stan as I am of Cunnilingus, I feel like their last few projects have had some corny moments, especially on One Yearology, as good as the production is, and even a few moments on Rosa Zero Nano. I think that's why Dirty Acres and A Piece of Strange are their best albums, because you don't really have those corny moments in those albums. But back to Death is Silent, I think a lot of what that has to do with No's voice and his delivery, especially on a song like Graveyard, which just is kind of corny to me. And his voice doesn't help with it, even though it's still one of my favorite albums of the decade, with the atmosphere and the production, but I definitely agree with you here. Moving along. Ben says, Beach House makes more enjoyable music than Slowdive. They're decent though. I 100% agree with this. Beach House is like the best dream pop duo ever. I've said it like 50 times. Even though, let's give Slowdive some credit. I mean, Souvlaki was one of the best shoegaze dream pop albums out there, and one of the most important ones out there too. But other than that, if you compare like head to head Slowdive's album with Beach House's album, Beach House is just gonna blow them out of the water. And then people bring up the argument that, well, Beach House, all their stuff blends together and sounds like one song, but I never really had that issue with them. Like, I can distinguish their songs pretty easily, especially on Bloom, Teen Dream, and Seven. But yeah, agree. Duran says, MF Doom and Playboi Carti are very overrated in my opinion. We'll start with Doom. I understand this because there was a point in my time listening to rap where I didn't really care for Doom or understand why people liked him so much, but it took a while. It's like the same story with Death Grips. It's one of those sounds that it takes a really long time to get into, but I think once you like find that one song that piques your interest, you'll start liking Doom. I think his persona is pretty interesting, and that would be pretty interesting to anyone, and the production is great too, whether it's from Madlib or him. But yeah, as for Playboi Carti, I agree. Even though I do like some of his stuff, I like Die Lit, I think Playboi Carti gets too much of the credit, and his producers don't get enough, because the producers are really what make it so good. I know his melodies are kind of catchy, but a lot of them are just really weak, in my opinion, and he could do so much better. Basic Bitch Tear Gas says, jacking off is a fucking sport. It's whatever you want it to be, bud. It's whatever you want it to be. He also said, Adam Sandler is a top 5 actor ever. If we're only considering actors from like stupid funny movies like Will Ferrell and guys like that, then yeah, I would agree he is in the top 5 for that genre. Moving on, Goat says, Drogas Wave is better than the Coal and Food and Liquor. This is an interesting take, and I definitely agree with it being better than the Cold because I've never cared for that record as much as other people do. As for Food and Liquor, I feel like that album's a bit overrated. It's not as consistent as people make it out to be, even though it definitely has Lupe's greatest highlights in his career. I do think Drogas Wave is probably a better album than both of these. Even with the hour-and-a-half runtime, it doesn't really get stale, and it's pretty consistent all the way through. Plus, the story behind it and just the general message, I think, is more interesting than both of the other albums. Juan says, liking ass play isn't gay as long as it's with your girlfriend. Well, Juan, if you have a girlfriend, then you're not gay, unless you're a girl. Rap Love 2 says, malt Ezzers are greater than M&Ms. Well, I'm not British, so I never tried them, but I doubt it. He also says, Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous is overrated, like it is good to great, but it hasn't anything outstanding. I kind of could see where you're coming from. I mean, at the time, I think it would be amazing, a classic, but it's kind of become dated over the years with all this new Cole production coming out. Still, flow-wise, it's an amazing album, but I can see where you're coming from here. And lastly, he said, Whack World is overrated. It is just straight up boring, and some beats sound like they come from children's birthday songs. Honestly, I kind of disagree, but I kind of agree at the same time. I feel like what she's going for could have been done better, and I never was a huge fan of Tierra Whack, but she did show a lot of potential with this album that she hasn't quite capitalized on yet, so it'll be interesting to see if, she kind of does this sound in the future, but refined and a lot better. To New Day, I'm Over Here Now. Stream Sibber, aka Cuck, said Radiohead have only like 2 good albums, and the rest range from decent to trash. I don't think Radiohead has any trash albums, but I could kind of see where you're coming from, because I only really go back to 2 Radiohead albums, those being OK Computer and In Rainbows. The other ones are kind of just, you listen once for the experience and then you never return to them. At least that's my experience with Radiohead, but if that's what you mean, like replay value wise, then I see where you're coming from, but I don't agree that they're trash. Olivia said Janet is better than MJ. I haven't listened to either of their discogs widely, so I don't feel comfortable giving my opinion on this one, so I'm sorry, but maybe I'll get back to you someday. That's gonna do it for the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe, catch you next time.